Today, we are going to talk about the shoulder joint and why shoulder positioning is so important so that you don't end up with shoulder impingement issues that could lead to rotator cuff issues and specifically supraspinatus tears. So shoulder is made up of the humerus here. It's a ball and socket joint. This humerus inserts into the glenoid fossa right here. So this is the scapula, has this little hole. You can see there's the 3 different processes surrounding it. And ideally, our shoulder can move freely in that joint, lots of different directions. What happens is in modern society, we kind of sit here with phones, computers. Our shoulders are very rounded forward all the time, and muscles adapt to the positions that we have them in for long periods of time. So if you're spending hours a day with your shoulders kind of rolled forward, rolled down, then your muscles are adapting and those muscles are shortening. The 2 muscles that we're going to look at specifically shortening are the pec major. Pec major is coming from the sternum here, lower ribs, all the way up to the collarbone, and it's coming and inserting into the humerus. So it's coming from all the way along here, inserting here. What it does is it kind of pulls that shoulder internally, rotates it, and pulls it anterior. It kind of does this with your shoulder. Pec minor is deep to pec major. This is pec minor up here. It's coming up at this, 60 to 70 degree angle. And the pec minor inserts right here, this little process on the front of the shoulder blade. So when pec minor is tight, what it's doing is it's pulling the shoulder blade down. So that down and forward mechanism. So what happens when we have our shoulders sitting here instead of here is we don't have all of the freedom of movement in that ball and socket joint. This space, particularly the space where the supraspinatus muscle comes through, it's coming right through, you can see, above the spine of the scapula. That's why it's called supraspinatus. Comes right through and pokes out this little hole right here and comes and attaches into the humerus here. And when we kind of squint that space, that muscle is likely to get pinned. It is most likely to get pinned with overhead activities. So one of the things that you can try is take your shoulder, kind of roll it down and back if you can, raise it overhead, see where you get. Take your shoulder, roll it forward, try to raise it overhead, and you can see your arm just doesn't do that overhead motion. So if you are doing overhead motion, but your shoulder is stuck down and forward, basically every time you're trying to reach overhead, you are pinching those muscles. And so that can lead to wear and tear on the supraspinatus, and that's where we get tears in it. And when they talk about rotator cuff tears, that is the absolutely most common one. Looking at the back, when our pecs are tight, and pec major and pec minor takes our shoulder blades from sitting ever so beautifully here and pulls them up and around. Basically here, pulls them up and around. So then these muscles that are on our back here are rhomboids that are attaching from the spine to the shoulder blade, are like middle traps and lower traps that are attaching from the spine and crossing this area. They insert like way up here. Those muscles are just getting lengthened and they're sitting in this elongated, lengthened position, and that causes those muscles to be inhibited, meaning they don't fire as well, which is why it's really hard when you're not used to it to pull your shoulders back. If you're used to this position, then pulling back here is a lot of work, and that's why they sell that famous sports bra that Taylor Swift wears and other posture correctors that basically help you pull your shoulders down and back, because these muscles are weakened. Another thing that you might notice is like, my back feels so tight. This area feels so tight, and it's like you're stretching it and trying to get those muscles to relax, and they don't want to. And the thing is, yes, those muscles are tight, but more those muscles are taut. They are pulled tight by being lengthened. So in fact, to give them a rest, what you'd want to do is open up the front of the body, letting those shoulder blades come back and come together. And that will allow those muscles to relax. So some of my favorite stretches for these are just stretches that open up the front of the body. I love the snow angel stretch. We typically do it on the floor with a foam roller behind us. And you're just gonna open your arms, back of your hands to the ground or to the wall. And you are going to slowly slide your arms up towards the ceiling. And so what we're working on here is stretching those muscle fibers in all of the range of motion. Pec major doesn't just have horizontal fibers. As you can see, there does have some horizontal fibers, but it also has some fibers coming down here, fibers coming up here. So you want to get that whole range of pec major, and you want to get into pec minor here, which is why we're coming up all the way overhead. And a lot of people do really well from here to here. And when we hit this area, this is where, you know, your hands will be floating off of the floor or off of the wall, depending on where you're doing it. I love doing it on the floor because you can just like gravity open up that space. And so we do maybe 10 of these up and down, nice and slow, breathing. If you're not touching the floor, just hover over it. If you're getting sensations of impingement, if you're getting numbness, tingling in your hands, I would say stop before you're getting to those areas now. Let's say we can get to here, pain-free. I'm just gonna pause here and work my way towards that over a course of probably a couple weeks.